Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the Talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. And we have Joe Kissell back one more time before Mountain Lion actually goes live. Joe, it's great to see you.
Isn't my next interview free? I think I've punched my card quite a few times.
I think you have a lot of free rides coming because it seems like you're always here. I feel like I should just take a picture and put it up on the wall. And
how do how do I get time to actually write? Because it seems like I spend all my time with you.
Well, I hope that your wife wouldn't agree with that, but anyway, we're going to get away from that. Well, yeah, and you're a father too. You got a little one to take care of.
Oh yes, yes, I do.
That's where the time goes.
That's where the time goes.
So this time we're here talking about take control of upgrading to Mountain Lion, which is a very timely topic. Obviously, it's just come out, and we don't know if we're quite on the eve of Mountain Lion being released, but Apple has promised it for sometime in July. So later this month, we can expect a flood of people getting ready to upgrade. And you are trying to prepare us, as you always do, just a little bit ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Give us a break on the price of the book, and also make sure that this process is smooth. So I think we'll start out, Joe, by letting you explain how the book process works.
All right, so we're going to do something similar to what we did last time around with Lion, which is basically starting right now. You can buy the book, version 1.0 of the book, and you will read about all the steps that you need to take to get ready to upgrade. All of the backups and assessing your system readiness and all those sorts of things. And it's going to take you right up to the point where you would click the buy button. You can't do that yet because it's not available yet. But on the day it becomes available, as soon as we are able to push it out, but definitely on that day, we will release version 1.1 of the book. So you can click a couple of links, download a free update to version 1.1, and that contains the entire process, start to finish. All the things that I covered in the preparatory process, plus everything that's going to happen in the installer and everything that happens afterwards. Now, the whole book has already been written. It's already been edited. It is ready to go right now, except that for all we know, because this happened last time and we think it's probably going to happen again, Apple could make some last-minute changes. And we would rather not, we want to tell you the truth. We would rather not have you believe things that turn out to be wrong later. So we just want to wait until we have seen the very last, the final actual release. We've been able to quickly check through to make sure that everything I claimed based on my testing with the preview releases is still true. That really, we have this down to a science, so that should really only take an hour or two. And so as soon as it goes on sale, we will just zip through those things, make sure that all those potential question areas in the book are clarified, and push that out. So version 1.1 is ready. It's going to be great. What you get with 1.0 is sort of like a third of the book. And it'll help you get ready for Mountain Lion, and then as soon as it's released and you're ready to click buy, go ahead and update the book, and I'll walk you the rest of the way through it.
These books, I think, are really important. We all use the operating system every minute of every day that we use our Macs. So you want to get this right. If you get nothing else right, you want to get the installation right, because God knows the operating systems themselves can have enough issues. So
yes,
and we don't want to cover the whole book here, and even if we wanted to, we couldn't. But give us a couple ideas about some of the things you talk about in the book. I mean, I know the basics about make sure that your Mac will run Mountain Lion.
Yes.
Or your computer. Yeah, your book will run Mountain Lion. But how about some things maybe we forget about, or that you guide us through that will help ease the pain?
Absolutely. Well, I've been doing this a while. It's almost 9 years ago that I released my very first Take Control book, which is Take Control of Upgrading to Panther. Every time Apple comes out with a new big cat, I think to myself, oh, well, this time the book is going to be It's going to be 20 pages long. It's going to basically say you click these 3 buttons and you're done. And I take an initial look at the installer. I'm like, oh yes, Apple has done a great job. They've made it even easier to use than before, even more intuitive. They've taken away confusing options, all these things. And I think, who's even going to buy this because it's just become so simple. And then, a couple of weeks of sleepless nights later, after my, 100th installation of the operating system, and I'm, tearing out what few remaining hairs I have, I'm just like, astonished at some of the complexities I've found that I never even imagined. So I say right in the introduction, look, if you're already running Lion, and if you keep your Mac really well up to date with all the latest software, and if you have excellent backups, then you really don't need to read this book. I mean, really save your money to spend on one of my other books. But you don't need to read this book because it really is very simple. You go into the Mac App Store, you click a few buttons, you wait a little bit, and kind of it's done. Now, that's great. That's the truth for people who are running Lion, especially if you're already signed up for iCloud and everything's working real great. You have nice fast broadband. But what I've discovered is that there are lots and lots of scenarios that don't fit into that nice, neat mold. The situation is more complicated if you're running Snow Leopard. And if you're running Leopard or even Tiger, then it gets really, really, really complicated. Now, I have a Mac right over here that when I bought it in 2007, it shipped with Tiger. And yet, it is one of the models that supports Mountain Lion. Now, of course, I've kept it up to date with all the latest versions of Mac OS X, but there must be some people out there that haven't. Maybe you're running Tiger, maybe you're running Leopard, and those people are going to have some challenges. And it's not just the fact that you have to have the Mac App Store, which only runs on Snow Leopard or later, to buy the thing. I mean, that is a challenge. But even if you get past that, you'll have still more challenges. So, a year ago, when Lion came out, I figured out a tricky little workaround that would let Lion install under Tiger or Leopard, and it was just a very minor little hack, and it worked just fine. So I thought, of course the same thing will work this time. No, it does for Leopard. So Leopard users are still okay-ish, but Tiger users, oh man, it's painful, it's messy. And I actually wrote up 7 pages of instructions just for Tiger users who need to upgrade to Mountain Lion without going through Snow Leopard or Lion. And I looked at those 7 pages and I talked with Adam and Tanya about them, and I'm like, this is just insanity. Like even if you do all this, I can't guarantee that your system won't crap out. Like it's that messy. So I decided to move those pages out of the book, and they're in a PDF file on my hard drive. And if anybody really needs them, I can email them to you, but they're like these big, bold, red, italic letters on the top with all these warnings about really don't do this because it's that messy. And I'm telling you, just really, if I were you, I would pay Apple $29, buy the Snow Leopard DVD, install that, and then pay the $19 to buy Mountain Lion. And I know that it like really sucks to buy one OS just to turn around and buy another one. But I'm telling you, if your time is worth anything and you're a Tiger user, this is what you will do. But anyway, that's just sort of an illustration of the fact that I have done lots and lots and lots of testing, and almost every time, I have like all these different scenarios I have to test. Well, what if you're going from this system with this configuration to this one with this configuration under these circumstances? What happens? And half the time everything goes the way I expect it will, and half the time I'm like, oh, that's new. Why did it? And I just sort of get stumped, like what happened there? Why did it happen? And so I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have 10 more tests to figure out, under what circumstances that bizarre thing that I just saw happen. And, like I say, if you're running Lion, it's going to be really smooth. Hardly anything unusual. I mean, basically everything that happens will be exactly what you expect to happen. But the farther back you get from Lion, the more likely you are to encounter things like, what? What is that all about? And why are you asking me so many questions? And didn't I answer those questions already? And like, so the installer sort of starts off making it look as though you're not going to have to answer any questions at all. There's no more to this, choose and erase and install or archive and install or upgrade or those sorts of questions. There's no like customize. I mean, just like in line, there's no customize, like choose whether you want the printer drivers and all this stuff. But it's later. It's later that you have to make choices. So I talk about all that stuff. One of the things that
Joe, I got to interrupt you. You're scaring our audience. Is it really that bad?
Well, it's not that bad. It's just unexpected,
Okay.
And I mean that's the point. That's the point of this book, right? The point is for me to experience these surprises, and so that I can tell you now. At this point, you might be thinking about panicking. Don't panic. No, really, this is a surprise. That's all right. You got your backups. You're good. And I'm going to tell you what to do next, even though it's not obvious. So, I mean, that's kind of the point. So, but really, everything is going to be fine. Really, everything is going to be fine.
Just listen to Dr. Kissell and everything will be fine.
But, one of the, if you watched the WWDC presentation or read kind of any of the articles about Mountain Lion, you know that one of the big things is more iCloud integration. So now, as of June 30th, MobileMe is no longer. We're all iCloud now. Hopefully everybody that needed to make that transition already has. But there's a lot of stuff in Mountain Lion that's tied into iCloud. And so, of course, you're going to need to have your Apple ID handy. And some people have 2 Apple IDs. Some people have 3 Apple IDs. And one of the things I talk about in this preparatory phase, like before you even, before Mountain Lion is even available, is sorting out problems that you might run into later on with your Apple IDs. Make sure you know what your Apple IDs are, what your passwords are, which Apple ID you use for which purposes, which Apple ID you are going to enter when the installer says, and now enter your Apple ID, and what the consequences of that are going to be. It's not rocket science. It's not terribly hard, but in all the presentations I've done about iCloud and the articles I've written, I've just gotten tons of feedback from people who don't fit into the sort of standard Apple use case that, just they've done different things. And so I want for all those people to feel a level of happiness and comfort and reassurance that they know what they need to know when that time comes. So I talk about the Apple ID, and I also talk about a number of other things, both in the cloud and otherwise, that you might want to just go ahead and take care of before you upgrade. You'll be happier if you do.
After all this time, you would think that we would all be a lot more comfortable with upgrades, but you bring up something that a lot of us forget about, that not everybody has kept up. Not everybody has machines that can keep up, and so they get stuck, or somebody decides that, I'll save that $25 or $30 and I'll skip this version of the OS and maybe just jump to the next one. And that seems to be, from what you're saying, where some of the big problems come.
Well, as a matter of fact, even figuring out whether your computer can run Mountain Lion is not all that straightforward. So, there's this page on Apple's website that lists, okay, the following Macs can run Mountain Lion. It's like, iMac, mid whatever year or later, Mac Pro late whatever year or later. I don't have the list memorized, but it's in the book and it's on Apple's website. The thing is, though, you might not know which Mac you have. So like I'm standing in front of an iMac right now, and nowhere on the case does it say mid 2010. Now, if you're running Lion, there's a place that you can go that's going to tell you. And in fact, I didn't even know about this until a couple of days ago. I didn't know this. I didn't know you could get that information within Mac OS X anywhere. But as it turns out, System Information, which used to be called System Profiler, has a little hidden screen that when you click the right, choose the right menu command, the screen comes up and it actually tells you in plain English, this is an iMac, mid 2010 or whatever. So if you're running Lion, great, go ahead and look there. But if you're running Snow Leopard or older, that screen doesn't exist. And so you just have to somehow know. And so like if the list says, early 2009 or later, and you bought your Mac in February 2009, does that count? How do you know? Like, because it's not when you bought it, it's when it was introduced. And you might have bought your Mac used, or you might have bought it refurbished, or you might have bought it at the end of a cycle or whatever. So I explain, in detail exactly how you find out. Where do you get the real model number, and how do you tell if that model number is okay? Because not all of the Macs that could run Lion can also run Mountain Lion, unfortunately. So it's unnecessarily frustrating. I mean, to Apple's credit, they are taking steps to make it easier as time goes on, but there are still a lot of people who fall through the cracks. And so that's just one of those details that I help you to decode.
A couple things you've said here are worth the price of the book by far. The iCloud issue, because that can really get confusing and can really botch your data up if you're not careful. And also just the where to go and find out what Mac I have. That would be really nice, instead of having to jump through all the codes and then try to look it up on the website and figure out, okay, this is what I have. Not just for this process, but for hardware upgrades and for software compatibility. That alone is worth the price of admission. And of course, somewhere in there, Joe, I think we have the backup recommendation.
Nah, backups. That's so that's so last week. I mean, I'm over backups. I mean,
yeah.
Why do we need those anymore? Yeah, sort of, backups, the standard advice applies. I have my little sermon about backups and how, you might be using Time Machine, and Time Machine is great, and you might be using Crash Plan, and Crash Plan is great, but really, when you're upgrading to a new version of Mac OS X, you have to have a bootable duplicate. If you've never had one before, make one now and just do it. So, the bootable duplicate can do lots of cool things connected to upgrade. I mean, a lot of people say, well, the reason you do this is so that if something goes wrong in the process, you can go back to what you had before. And that's very true. But also there are some neat tricks you can pull with a bootable duplicate, such as you can install Mountain Lion onto a fresh blank disk or partition or whatever, and then at the end, migrate all the stuff over from your existing Lion or whatever installation. And the point of doing that is to sort of decrudify your system. You're going to optimize the disks, which is a nice thing if you're not using an SSD. But also, you're going to get rid of any disk errors or directory errors or other little gremlins that might be lurking in your system. And if you want to make a clean move, your bootable duplicate can help you to do that really a lot faster and a lot more cleanly than a Time Machine backup can do. I mean, Time Machine can do it, but not perfectly. So a duplicate is really a great way to do it.
Yeah, it's not exactly an erase and clean install, but it's about as close as you can get without having to go through an erase and clean install to do it the way you're talking about. I've sort of adopted that as my personal preferred method. And
except, the only thing is, it takes forever. I mean, I am doing my upgrade of Mountain Lion on a test machine right here. And, most of the time when I'm doing installs, I start with a clean, just the operating system. No third-party software, no personal files, just a clean install, the usual software upgrades, because that's a very small amount of data to work with. But this machine here has, 400 some gigabytes of my personal data on it. So when I say, okay, now install Mountain Lion onto an empty drive and copy over all that stuff, it takes like 6 or 7 hours. So it's not a trivial thing to do, but if you can set it going overnight, it's not that bad, and you'll probably be really happy with the end result.
Or start it and then go pick up your iPad and read one of Joe's other Take Control books.
Oh yeah, I have. There's this moment in the book where, okay, you've clicked the install button, and it's just going to churn for a while, and even if you're not transferring data from another volume, you got 20 minutes, a half hour, maybe longer to wait while the stuff copies over. So every time I do one of these books, I have and now what do? Go for a walk, go for a jog, have a cup of tea. So this time it's organize your sock drawer. So, I'm not only telling you how to upgrade your Mac, I'm telling you how to upgrade your, wardrobe, or, well, your sock drawer. I'm telling you how to organize your hard disk and your sock drawer. But you gotta do something.
Does this mean take control of my wardrobe is in the offing?
I would not be the person to write. I mean, look at me. I would not be the person to write that book.
Okay. All right. We'll just ask you to stick with the tech stuff then.
Yeah.
Joe, any final recommendations? I know one thing I personally like to do, and maybe this is just brain dead obvious, but I'll mention it, is make sure that everything on my current Mac is as up to date as I can make it.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely in the book. If you upgrade all of your software, I mean, to the extent possible, before you upgrade Mac OS 10, then you will eliminate a lot of pain from incompatibilities. This especially applies to things like mail plugins and like things that are likely to get disabled when you upgrade. If there is a Mountain Lion compatible version and you can install that under your older operating system, then there will be that much less hassle, that fewer error messages and so on once you upgrade, and much less of a chance of crashes or really weird bad things. So yeah, I talk about upgrading your software. I talk about getting rid of old useless files that may be taking up space that you're really going to need for the installation. And I also have a chapter at the end of what if your method of upgrading to Mountain Lion is to buy an entirely new Mac? How do you migrate stuff from an old Mac to a new Mac? So there's really lots of good information in there, troubleshooting information, and kind of everything I can think of to tell you to make the process as simple and reliable and straightforward as I can.
Perfect. So this book is out now. The 1.1 version will be out as soon as practical, as
Right.
Mountain Lion hits the streets. That will clear up any additional errors, or not errors, but changes that Apple has made to the process.
It certainly will. So what we're doing, it's a long book. I mean, I'm sorry, it is a long book. You don't have to read the whole thing, but it's long because there are lots of these little but what if you do this kind of things. So you read the parts that apply. But because it's long, it has a $15 cover price. But what we're hoping is that hardly anybody will actually have to pay $15 for it. So here's the deal. First of all, if you take control of upgrading to Lion already that you bought, last year, whenever, then you get this book for $5. If you had one of my older books, take control of upgrading to Panther, Tiger, Leopard, and you didn't get the Lion book, $7.50. So anyone who is upgrading from another one of my upgrading books gets at least half off, maybe 2/3 off. In addition, anyone who buys the book before Mountain Lion actually ships, while it's still in its sort of 1.0 state, gets it for $10. So when we push out when Mountain Lion ships and we push out the 1.1 update, which will of course be free for everyone who has version 1.0 of the book, at that point we're going to start charging $15 for people who haven't ever bought one of my upgrading books before. So don't be one of those people. Save $5 or more by buying it early, and not only will you save money, but you'll save heartache because you'll be better prepared for Mountain Lion when it ships.
Joe, the other thing I want to make sure we just touch on are some of the other books that may aid in this process, because when we laugh a lot about how many books you produce, but you really do produce almost little suites of books that apply to different things. Which ones do you think should also be on the reading list as we go through this transition?
Sure. Well, first of all, I have to put in a plug for Matt Newberg's book, Take Control of Using Mountain Lion. So I get you through the installation process in like the next 5 minutes, but I don't actually tell you how to use all the new cool features of Mountain Lion. That's Matt's domain. So he has his book, which is sort of the, taking over where I leave off, and he's done these books again since the Panther days. They're really great. They will tell you everything you need to know about dealing with saving documents and notifications and all the new features. So that one for sure. In terms of books I've written, we're going to have an update to my book, Take Control of iCloud, which we are hoping will come out again like almost exactly the same time Mountain Lion does, because Mountain Lion has a lot of new iCloud stuff, and of course the Mobile Me stuff is gone. So there are a few more unknowns with the iCloud material, and so if we can't get it out that exact day, believe me, we will get it out as soon as humanly possible. But of course, anyone who had bought it to that point will get a free update anyway. So the iCloud book tells you all about iCloud. And then also my book on Apple Mail. So Take Control of Apple Mail in Mountain Lion. That also has been written, has been edited. It's ready to go. As soon as Mountain Lion goes on sale, that will go out. And that will also be a free update for anyone who has Take Control of Apple Mail in Lion. So, of course, yes, you should also buy my backups book and, maintaining and troubleshooting and speeding up your Mac and, all the rest of them. But really, it's, the sort of freshly updated for Mountain Lion books are Matt's book, the iCloud book, and the Apple Mail book.
Sounds good. And of course, I'll have links in the show notes to everything, so you can go and just easily click on those and just knock them off one at a time. Because if you haven't already gotten them, you really should have them. It'll make a big difference.
I think so.
Joe, I guess we'll see you on the other side of Mountain Lion if things go as anticipated, because I know that there are more books coming.
Oh, you better believe it.
That's almost sounded like a threat. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
Folks, that's Joe Kissell. Again, he's the author of Take Control of Upgrading to Mountain Lion, something you definitely want to have in your hands before you make the leap. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner, and this is Mac Voices. Thanks for listening. MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices group and a member of Mac Level 10.